So we all do it, right? We subscribe to services online all the time. But have you ever stopped and wondered what really happens when you smash that subscribe button? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the entire process, from that very first click, all the way to the moment you cancel. Let's dive in.
You see that button, you pop in your card details, and bam! Suddenly, you've unlocked a whole new world of features. It kind of feels like magic, doesn't it? But what's the actual gear-turning mechanism that opens the gates for you and only you?
Believe it or not, the whole complex dance of recurring payments, access control, and billing, it all comes down to one incredibly simple idea. A single switch. That's it. That's the secret.
And here it is, the one switch rule. Deep down in the application's database, your user account has this tiny little field, usually called something like hasAccess. If that little guy is set to true, you're a paying customer, you're in. If it's false, you're out. The entire job of this whole subscription system is just to flip this one switch at exactly the right time.
Okay, so how do we get that switch flipped from false to true to begin with? Well, it all kicks off with what we call the checkout journey.
So from your side, it seems pretty simple. You click the button, and our app's backend instantly gets to work. It creates a super secure temporary payment session with a payment processor, like Stripe, and then it kind of passes you over to their page to handle the sensitive stuff. And this is so important. Our app never even sees or touches your credit card number.
Now here's the absolute secret sauce. Before our app sends you off to Stripe, it attaches what you can think of as a digital name tag to that session. This tag is your unique ID from our database. And why is that so critical? Well, because Stripe knows all about payments, but it has no earthly idea who user123 is in our system. This little ID is the bridge that connects those two separate worlds. It's the key to the whole operation.
All right, so you've paid, your bank gives the thumbs up, now what? How does our app find out that you're legit? This is where Stripe sends a little secret message back to our servers.
This message is called a webhook. And honestly, you can just think of it like an automated text message that Stripe's computers send directly to our app's computers. It happens instantly, totally in the background, and it basically says, hey, just letting you know, that person just paid. You're good to go.
And this breaks it down perfectly. There are really two of these messages, these webhooks, that we care about the most. When a payment goes through, we get the checkout.session.completed message. That's our cue to flip your hasAccess switch to true. You're in. But later, if you cancel, we get a totally different message, customer.subscription.deleted. And that tells us, okay, time to flip that same switch back to false. It's just a really clean automated system for granting and revoking access. Okay, so the switch is in place. We know how to flip it on. We know how to flip it off. But how do we actually, make sure the gate is locked when that switch is set to false?
Right, because just having the switch doesn't do anything by itself. You have to actually check it. Think about it. A lock on a door is completely useless unless you actually check to see if it's locked before you try to open it. In the world of software, that constant checking is done by something called an API guard.
And this is the most critical part for security. Every single time you try to do something that's a paid feature, every time, whether it's creating a new post or downloading a report, the server stops everything for a split second and asks one question. Is this user's hasAccess switch set to true? If the answer is no, access denied. End of story. And because this happens on the server, it's impossible for someone to try and cheat the system from their web browser.
So now let's zoom all the way out and just take a look at the whole journey, from the moment a user signs up to the day they decide to leave. So here it is, the whole life cycle in a nutshell. You subscribe and pay. A webhook comes in and flips your switch on. If you need to manage your billing, you do it through a secure portal from Stripe. And then, if you decide to cancel, a different webhook comes in and flips that very same switch back off. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's incredibly robust.
You might be thinking right now, okay, this makes sense, but why all the fuss with our own switch? If Stripe is for the payment info lives, why not just have our app ask Stripe for the user's status every single time they load a page? And that's a really smart question.
Well, there are a couple of huge reasons. First off, speed. Asking our own database is instantaneous. Asking Stripe for permission across the internet every time you click something would make the app feel incredibly slow. It also makes our app tougher. It can still check your access even if Stripe's website is having a bad day. And second, we need that reliable way to connect a Stripe payment back to a specific person in our world. That little local switch is the bridge that makes it all possible.
So if you're going to remember anything from this, remember these 4 things. 1. The whole system hangs on that one simple true-false switch. That's your source of truth. 2. Let the pros handle the money.
Use a payment processor like Stripe for all the complex, scary security stuff. 3. Use webhooks. They are the communication channel that keeps your world and the payment world in perfect sync. And finally, number 4, server-side API guards. They are your non-negotiable line of defense.
And there you have it, a really elegant system of switches and messages that quietly powers a huge part of the internet we use every day. Kind of makes you wonder, right? What other really complex things in our lives are actually just governed by one simple on or off switch?